So I've had quite a few people ask me about duck calls, what kind of calls I use, what are some suggestions about what they could use, what are the difference in different types of calls. So what I've done is I pulled out a bunch of my calls, different kinds of calls. I'm going to show you the differences between different types of calls. I'm going to demonstrate quite a few of them. That's what we're doing this time on Surviving Duck Season.
Surviving Duck Season, offering you the best waterfowl content. Subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell, and don't miss any of our great content. Presented by Mojo Outdoors and High and Dry.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Joel Strickland. First off, let me just say this. There are very few absolutes in duck calling. There's no best kind of duck call. There's no best type of duck call, no best brand of duck call. And when it comes to calling, there's no one perfect way that you're supposed to sound. That's the truth. I'm not saying that I know everything there is to know, but I'm going to give you my unbiased opinion about duck calls, about the different types of duck calls there are. I'm not sponsored by a duck call company. I'm going to share with you some calls that I have, and different calls that I picked up over the years. I'm going to give you my opinion on them. I'm going to kind of tell you the differences between them, and maybe that'll help you to be able to choose the right call for you. So first, we're going to talk about the three main types of calls that are most popular calls out today. That's single reed, double reed, and cut down calls. First, let's start off with double reed calls. Now, double reed calls, like these are a couple examples of double reed calls, and they don't have to look like this. They can look like this too, but basically a double reed call has two reeds in it, and they are typically a lot easier to blow than other kinds of calls. They're the easiest for new people to blow. They're the most forgiving, but they also have some drawbacks. That being is you can't manipulate them as well as you can if you have a single reed call. Oftentimes you can't make them as soft as you want or as loud as you want. Right here, this is the Primos winch, and this is the Haydel DR85. In fact, I think this might be the first call I ever had. If it's not the first one, it's one of the first ones. I'll blow it for you. So that's the Haydel, and here's the Primos winch. They both sound pretty good, really. I blew both of these calls for quite a number of years. I blew them off and on along with other calls until I got really, really confident blowing a single reed call. But I'll tell you, I know a lot of guys that have been duck hunting as long as me or even longer than I have, and that still blow one of these kind of calls. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to say, oh, well, this is a beginner call. There are a lot of guys out there that shoot a lot of ducks using double reed calls like these two right here. The thing about a double reed is the second reed, the bottom reed, it acts more as a governor. It keeps you from doing bad things when you're calling, but it also keeps you from doing some of the really cool things that you want to do with a call. And that's a big difference in what the double reed can do and can't do. With a single reed call, you can vary your pitch and your volume much better, and therefore it enables you to do more advanced duck calling techniques. This call here is a very special call to me. It's my very first single reed call that I ever bought. It's an echo call made by Rick Dunn. I actually met Rick, and because I met him, I bought it. I think I was probably 16 or 17 years old at the time, and I wanted a good call. This is made out of cocobolo wood. For those of you who know a little bit about echo calls, this was made, it's stamped on the bottom, Jacksonville, Arkansas. So this was actually made by Rick before he moved to BB. I dropped it one time and cracked it, and I epoxied it, and it lasted for a few years, and then I epoxied it again. But it's really a good call. This guy, you can see where I bit into it too many times around here, and the finish is all kind of messed up. But it's very special call. It means a lot to me. I mean, I pick it up every once in a while and blow it. Actually, it doesn't sound too bad, does it? Especially for a call that I haven't used in I don't know how long. Then I got a new call, And this is an Echo timber call. It's a great call too. It's made out of Coca-Cola wood. Anyway, it's a great call. I blew this call for a long time, up until really about 5 or 6 years ago. I blew this call, and you know, it's made out of wood. A lot of guys feel like that wood calls sound more ducky. They you know, have a little softer sound, especially if you're working ducks in really close. If you're hunting enfiladed timber, you know, in tight little areas where ducks get in close, they feel like wood calls have a better sound. I've always liked the sound of a wood call, but this is another Echo call. It's a pure meat, an acrylic call. Acrylic is a more denser, tougher material that doesn't absorb water and won't swell or shrink with temperature and humidity like wood does. You see the difference. It's a lot louder. I know that you probably can't tell the volume, you know, on the video, but it does have a different quality of sound. It has more of a crack to it, and that's very typical of an acrylic or a polycarbonate. Polycarbonate is plastic. A polycarbonate call is usually an injected molded call. I got tons and tons of single reed calls that I didn't pull them all out, but I just want to kind of give you guys some differences in different types of calls. The downside of a single reed call is it takes you a lot longer to master it. You really need to treat it like a musical instrument. That'll help you if you can kind of put that in your brain. It's a musical instrument. It requires a lot more control of your breath using your diaphragm and your mouth. The third type of call is a cut down call. Now, cut downs came from guys modifying calls back in the 60s. They took an Olt, a D2 Olt call, and they started modifying them and shaving on them, cutting the reeds down, and manipulating the call to make them sound louder, to change their pitch with them. And really, it's kind of interesting the way that cut downs came about. A lot of the really avid guys that saw the success with what they did to the call, they kept it really close to the vest. They didn't share the secrets of what they did, and for probably 20 plus, maybe 30 years, guys really, there's just only a handful of guys that were really using them very much, and then probably in the late 90s, early turn of the century, they started becoming popular. Now they're very popular. Most major manufacturers of duck calls have a cut down style call in their line. In fact, really, most manufacturers have double reeds and single reeds and cut down, you know, style calls. The one that I blow is a Mondo. This is actually a Mondo short, but I also have a standard Mondo that I blow as well. A cut down style call is a single reed call, and they often look like the barrel is on backwards. That's pretty common for most of the cut down calls. The difference in a cut down style call is that you can be really loud with it, you can be very aggressive with it, and the sound quality is completely unique compared to other types of calls. I'll demonstrate this one for you right now. And so, you know, you can tell it's a really raspy call. I know you can't probably tell the difference in the volume, but they, you know, cut down style calls are the loudest calls that are out there. I mean, there's really no question about it. Now, if you didn't see my video on duck calling, breaking the rules, you really ought to check it out. I talk about my changing to a cut down style call, and I also talk about some calling techniques. Now, the downside of using a cut down style call is that they're even more difficult to master than a traditional single reed call. A lot of guys feel like it takes more wind, more air to blow the call. It definitely takes different air control and pressure, that's for sure. I'll show you now on my lanyard what I use every day. You know, I've got a standard Mondo right here, and I've got another Mondo short right here. You know, and guys, why do you have so many calls? Well, I always buy more than one. If I find a call that I really like, I buy 2 of them. That way, if you lose one, if you break one, something happens and you got to make a quick switch. If you're in the blind and you split a reed or something like that, I can reach into my blind bag and put another call on the lanyard. A lot of times, I tune them a little bit different, like the Mondo short and the standard Mondo right here. They do sound just a little bit different, and so that way, if I decide I want something that sounds a little different for the day, or I might want to switch between the calls, I can do that. But I don't like to have 5 trillion calls hanging around my neck. I know some people don't mind doing that, but it wears me it wears me out. And so, I'll keep 2 mallard calls and a couple of whistles and a goose call on my lanyard, and that's what I hunt with every day of duck season. How do you know what kind of call is best for you? If you're new to calling, pick up a double reed call, a DR85 by Haydell's, and a Primos winch. Those would be 2 of my top choices for somebody new. Use it for a few seasons. Learn how to be a good duck caller. And what I mean is not somebody that can make good duck sounds. I mean, that's important. But what I mean is learn how to call ducks. Learn what works and what doesn't work, even though this may be limited in all the things you can do with it. I mean, you don't have to do all the fancy stuff to shoot ducks. But learn that, and then once you get good at that for a few seasons, then pick you up an inexpensive polycarbonate single reed call. I'm not going to say you need to buy one brand over another. I like Echo calls, I like RNT calls. There's plenty of other brands. Like I said, I've got some Primos calls. You can pretty much pick up most calls and make them work. So that's duck calls, the different types of calls, the differences between them, and what I use and some suggestions I have for you. I hope that it's helped you out. If you got any questions about duck calls, please post them in the comment section below. I'd love to help you answer any questions you might have. And we'll probably do some more duck calling demonstrations and some duck calling tips on videos to come. Again, thanks for watching Surviving Duck Season. I'm Joel Strickland. Good hunting and God bless.